And this is the single financial concept that is probably the most important and powerful tool in the arsenal of anybody looking to make more money. What I'm talking about should not be a big surprise. I'm wearing it all over me right now, guys. It's cash flow. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining in detail the many ways that can increase your own cash flow and quickly. So if you want to start seeing more bread in your bank at the very end of every month, you're going to want to make sure you stay tuned. So longtime viewers of this channel have gotten used to me talking about the term cash flow in our videos, or about debt weapons and income producing assets and leveraged investments. But do you really know what cash flow is? Technically, it's actually very specific. So if you don't have a pen handy, grab one, write this down. It's an extremely important definition that you need to commit to memory. Cash flow is the money that's left over after all of your expenses, including discretionary spending and including those infrequent expenses that pop up throughout the year. All of that has to be accounted for. It sounds simple, right? But even though the definition of cash flow might be clear for a lot of people, building long-term sustainable cash flow as part of an overall financial strategy isn't always as easy. I mean, within the budget of the average consumer, there are really a lot of moving parts and dynamic variables that are involved, and that can impact the amount of money that's left over every single month. For many of us, things like unforeseen expenses and unexpected life events can really detract from our progress, and especially if you're one of those self-employed individuals, it becomes very difficult to contemplate accurate budgeting. However, once you understand what actions you can take to bring some predictability and steady growth to your own cash flow, you can start to fast track your path to true financial freedom. Let's get started with some simple, easy to execute steps that you can take to start generating more cash flow right away. First and foremost, if you haven't done this already, it's time to scrutinize the money that you're spending on eating and drinking at restaurants and bars. This is an easy one for the most avoidable expenses that most Americans are going to incur, and it's deadly to positive cash flow. A recent study from an online banking service provider, Capital, which is spelled with a Q, they revealed that all of the money that consumers spend on themselves, they regret most what they spend on drinks and expensive meals at restaurants. It's easy to say that by significantly reducing how much you're spending in this area, you'll be giving your cash flow an immediate boost. It's just a lot harder to do it. Also related to reeling in your meal costs is getting disciplined about discretionary spending, other discretionary spending. Discretionary spending is any spending that is part of your monthly budget, but it's allocated to the here and there type of expenses. And you might feel that these are just part of your daily living. Some examples of this might include things like coffee and car washes, things like subscription services like Netflix or Amazon. And here's the problem with these costs. They add up. So one of the best ways to give yourself a cash flow boost is to really stick to a defined budget. And I know budget sounds a lot like a four-letter word here, guys. It's no different than hearing the word diet. But the truth is, a body like this is made in the kitchen. I'm just kidding. But the truth is, you've got to know what's coming in and what's going out to the dollar each and every month, which is why we provide you access to the free cash flow cruncher, which I'll give you a link to here at the end of the video. For those of us that are finding it difficult to stick to a budget, here's a tip. Get a prepaid credit card. Ideally, get one with the lowest possible fee involved and only use the budgeted money that's on the card for your discretionary spending. You can do the same thing with a separate checking account and a debit card. And you can even, with more advanced discipline, use a rewards-based credit card that you're monitoring every day. Once the balance dries up, you're done until next month. This is much like a more advanced version of what Dave Ramsey teaches as the envelope system, a prehistoric way of managing cash. Who uses cash anymore? Now, as you can see, the first step to supercharging your cash flow is really to get a hold of your expenses. You got to rope them down. You can't fold to the temptations of overspending. And there is so much dopamine and adrenaline that's involved with online shopping anymore that it becomes extremely addictive to the point where we end up buying a bunch of crap that we just simply don't need. Once you can wrangle that in, it's time to start looking at ways to actually increase the amount of money that's coming in. To illustrate how this is the best practice of earning a lot of money, I want to share with you the story of a millionaire millennial. His name is Grant Sebastian. And he went from a net worth of $2.26 to over $1 million in the span of just 5 years. And one of the strategies that he used to achieve that success was maximizing the money that he was getting paid for the work he was already doing. You see, Grant was one of the 81% of current Americans that don't feel comfortable with what they're earning right now. He took action on this by scouring the job market for better paying work. And effectively, it improved his income at a near zero expense. In other words, to start increasing your cash flow, you've got to find the highest bidder for the labor of the services that you provide in your full-time job. And by getting the best market rate for that, for whatever that is for what you do for a living, you're going to be able to increase your income without having to really retool your career at all. So if you're wondering how to go about making more by doing what you're already doing now, just go ahead and look into resources like Glassdoor.com. That's a recruiting company. Businesses that compete with your current employer are located there. And with a little gumption, a little gumshoe work, as they say, it's likely that you're going to find better financial compensation for the work that you're already doing well now, the work that you know best, the work that you know how to do. So help to inflate your cash flow by giving yourself a raise. Wrapping all this up, if you can manage to get a firm grip on your expenses, if you're doing half of the work of increasing your cash flow by doing that, and then if you can manage to get paid more for the work that you do well, the gifts that you have, if you can either find an employer that's willing to compensate you more than the current employer you're working for, or if you can start a side hustle or even grow your business by creating new high income streams of revenue, then you will combine this to see the magic unfold. Now, folks, I hope you're able to learn something valuable in these types of videos. It's important that I continue to stress the power of cash flow stacking, making more and spending less. Not on things that we love, but spending less on things we hate, spending less on interest costs. Imagine saving 75 or 80% of the interest costs on your mortgage alone. When's the last time you pulled out your truth in lending statement and saw exactly how much interest you're about to pay on the 30-year loan that's tied to your property? For most people, it's multiple six figures. If you have at least a $250,000 mortgage, you are likely going to spend close to multiple six figures in interest costs, even with record low interest rates. It is imperative that you understand the impact that your borrowing has on you and the benefits that it has for the banks. And until you realize that, it's hard to make any changes. But I don't want to sit here and suggest that you give up all the things you love spending money on. Things like Starbucks and travel or eating out. Those are things that you should be able to freely enjoy without worrying about the impact financially. Until we see you on the next one, make it a great day today and take care.